All right, here we go.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, sorry.
I'll turn the thermometer. The thermometer. Can we do that over again?
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Conversations in Bed. I'm Joleene.
God. Do you want to start this recording?
In 3, 2, 1. You're listening to Conversations in Bed with me, Joleene DeRosier.
And me, Ken Case.
You are so hot. This is the freshest, funnest, most fantastical podcast out there on later in life relationships that takes place right in our bed. Don't go anywhere. We're about to give you the goods on love, life, and leaning into truly powerful relationships right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Conversations in Bed. I'm Joleene DeRosier.
And I'm still Ken Case.
And you are still so hot.
Give me 1 second and I'll turn down the thermostat.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
Okay.
All right, but in real stuff here, today we're talking about empathy in leadership roles and how empathy in the workplace, we're going to focus primarily on that, but then how it can spill back into your household with your friends, your family, your loved ones, and your fur babies, if that so comes up. So, yeah, how's that sound?
That sounds great to me.
Okay, what's in your mug?
In my mug today, I have water. Due to budgetary constraints, we had to go with water today. Also might be the fact that I didn't make it to the store.
Well, we need some sponsors, some coffee sponsors. That would be lovely.
I'd rather just go to the mailbox. That's true.
I know,
That's
it's true. And pull it out and be like, ooh, look at this great coffee. But seriously, if you'd like to sponsor us with coffee, perhaps you're a small organization or a small business, we'd love to feature that coffee. We'll share what the coffee is. We'll share the origins of it. Mugs, if you want to donate those. Or listen, you have to help us with t-shirts because we made these ourselves. And Ken, you actually did a nice job on mine.
Well, and that's only...
Look what I did to yours. I made it go all the way across. You can't even read it.
Well, it's a run-on sentence. and you think being a writer, you may... no, just teasing.
No, it's true. It's a whole big thing. Everything in my life is a whole big thing.
It was fun, though.
It was fun. We thought we would save money by doing... You should have seen us. In the kitchen, here we are struggling to get these letters off just to make these t-shirts and then iron them on. And the letters are on... Well, my W is coming off.
Well...
It's okay. Look at your G's coming off, baby. Your baby. So
it's a whole big thin.
The whole big thin.
I'm a whole big thin.
If you'd like to save two fools like us, please email me at Joleene@takeyourvoiceback.com and you can help us out. We would be so very grateful. In any event, I have a question for you. We always start the podcasts out with questions that we don't know we're going to ask. And it's just a fun way to break the ice and see where we're going. So I didn't even look at what my question was. What did I ask here? Oh, okay. I think I know the answer to this. If you could have any job in the world, what would it be?
Yeah, that's kind of an easy question. Well, kind of an easy one, but kind of complicated too. So, of course, a pilot.
Yeah. You are a pilot.
I am, and actually working towards that, my commercial rating, as you well know, for a retirement gig, right?
What are you talking about? You're just a baby.
Yeah. So yeah, it would have been way back in the day, a pilot. Yeah, I grew up an Air Force brat and being around it. Didn't have the opportunity to do it because of vision, but now the vision's much better, right?
You had lenses put in.
Yeah. Well, and also the requirements have changed over time.
Okay.
So jumping into it now and almost there is like you said, I am a pilot. But for those of you that know, you've seen the videos she's done. It's pretty cool.
If you're watching the podcast video, here it is right here. This is the first time I flew with him. If you're listening audio, just imagine me. No, it was fine. It was fine. It was great, actually. I got a little nauseous. I get motion sickness.
But short answer, pilot.
Pilot. Okay.
What would your dream job be if you had no holds barred?
Showrunner. So I'm a writer. A showrunner and a writer for my own comedic television series. And you've read some of my stuff.
I have. So when we first got together, you were telling me about it, and you shared some of your scripts. Were they scripts? Some of your shows, and literally while I was reading them, I literally burst out laughing. And just reading it down because I can see that sitcom.
Yeah.
You are so witty and so funny, and your writing's great.
Oh, thank
and it's not that someone's going to jump on that.
I got to get it out there some more.
I'm telling you, there's
Yep.
there's another one you want me to read. I know you have a bunch. So
I have probably, I've been writing for a long time. Screenwriter. So like screenwriter, showrunner, producer, all of that, the creative realm. And I have done some indie film work. And I was a television producer for a long time. I was a television reporter for a long time. That's why we have everything we have to create this. I was a television host. This is my wheelhouse. It's what I love to do. But that's what I would do is I would want to show run and produce and write my own television series. And of course, it would be comedic
yeah,
with some
and you're
dramatic
good.
undertones.
You're good. You truly are.
Thank you. Thank you, baby. All right, let's dive in. So we chose to talk about this because it shows up in work. Sometimes we bring that work home with us. It ends up in our relationships. It can affect our relationships. But you and I have experience in the realm of this in different ways. So you are a leader in your current industry. I am going to share stories about a job I had in a past life and how the lack of empathetic leadership affected me. So I think this is really powerful for people, again, because they can relate to this, what they may be dealing with in the workplace. And then again, when we bring it home, how does that affect relationships and how can empathy improve our relationships?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to act like a reporter now.
Okay,
go
go right
into
ahead.
reporter mode and talk to Mr. Case. Can you give me an example of compassionate leadership?
Yeah. So compassionate leadership really comes down to first a quick definition. So if we look at empathy, right? Sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Those are three terms that I think sometimes get intermixed or confused. But just a quick definition, the way that I think about them. So and it's intrinsic to what I do and to what I've done for the past 39 years, right? For those that don't know, I've been a paramedic for 39 years as a career. And I've been fortunate enough to move up the ranks and move into a leadership role. So kind of flying a desk now for the most part.
Flying a desk.
So yeah, for the most part. But so sympathy, empathy, and compassion really come into what I do from the very get-go, right? That's kind of what we do. It's really the biggest part of what we do in the pre-hospital health setting. So, sympathy real quick. Sympathy is the way that I think about it is sympathy is one of those things where you're going to calling hours and you walk in and you say, I'm very sorry for your loss. And then you walk out and you and your buddies get together and you go to dinner, right? You expressed your sympathy, you expressed your care for that person. Empathy is something, it's a little deeper. Empathy is that you can relate to that person. You've either had that experience yourself or you're affected also by that experience that person is going through. And compassion is to take it one step further. And I didn't know this until, reading The Art of Compassion, right, with the Dalai Lama. And the way he describes it is compassion is empathy plus action, right? So compassionate leadership is simply taking action and being able to relate to that person. So let's say you have an underperformer in your business, whatever that business may be, but you have an underperformer. It's walking into that office or dealing with that person and talking to them. And instead of saying, hey, I've noticed, you've been underperforming for the past couple months. I really need you to step it up a little bit and get things going. It's more walking into that person and saying, hey, I've noticed you've been underperforming a little bit, for the past couple months. And, is everything okay? Is there anything that I can help you with? Is there anything we can do to get you through? Because so many times, what goes on outside of work is brought into work. And that's really where that comes from. Yeah. If you can get that person and you can bring them to a place where you have assisted them and you have helped them, boy, they are going to be dedicated to your company. They are going to be so much more involved, and they're going to want to stay there.
It's true.
I've been essentially with the same company for 38 years, and I can truly say that is one of the reasons why. I had great leaders coming up, and who really took an interest in me.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
I say I'm jealous because of a past experience, and it's been different jobs, and I know people can relate to this, different jobs in my past where that was lacking, but there was a time I didn't understand what that was. And I think I shared an example with you, and this is more, well, it's understanding your employees, where it was when I was in the newsroom. And if I did a piece of work and it was sent to the director and the director was going to air it, and after the news would air, they would send me a top line, that's what we would call a message, to say, that was amazing, that was fantastic. It was that level of recognition, and it was genuine. And they stopped and took the time to offer that. And that meant so much to me. And what do you think I did? Well, I got out there in the field and I brought back even a better story and would really go that extra mile, because yes, it was for them as a company, but it was also for me. So we served each other. Why do you think empathy and compassionate leadership skills lack in the workplace, and what can we do to change it?
So I think this is probably incumbent to virtually every business. It's really starting to come around now. I think there's more of a drive to address the situation. But what do we do, or what have we always done with most businesses, most most things in the workplace, is we take our really top performers. In my case, right, you take somebody who's a really good paramedic and they're great in the field and they're great doing that, and then we put them into a supervisory role. And just because you're a good paramedic does not mean you're a good supervisor or a good leader. And that's no shade on them. They're simply being taken and put into that role. So it's incumbent upon us to train those people. And one thing that I stress, and that my company has stressed, is they give examples, and they give people outside of work to look at, to emulate, to see some of this stuff. Compassionate leadership, the first time I was truly introduced to it, even though I kind of knew what it was, and I kind of knew that's the way that I wanted to lead, I really dove into it with Jeffrey Weiner, who used to be the CEO of LinkedIn, right? Mm-hmm. Since moved on, to bigger things. But really, he's the one who introduced it. I'm like, wow, I could so relate to this, concept of compassionate leadership and how he taught it. And then you just keep looking further. And there's others out there. There's so many mentors. Look at it, see what works for you, and take it upon yourself to, if you want to be a good leader, to look at that stuff, see what works, and then you can adjust it for whatever business you're in. So back to the question. Why do I think it's lacking? I think is simply because there's not a lot of good training out there for people that we bring and we put into a leadership role. We just assume that because they're good at what they do in the field, all of a sudden now they're going to be really good at that next level, which a lot of them certainly can be, but some people just aren't, aren't cut out for that role. So they can still be a really, really good provider in the field, or really good photojournalist, or whatever it may be, but maybe they can't jump up to that next level, and that's okay. That's okay.
That's called the Peter Principle. I learned that in college, and I never forgot it. It's when someone advances on this corporate ladder, we'll call it, going to that next management level, but they don't have the skills to do it. They call that the Peter Principle, and it is very common in the workplace. And one thing that I understood, and maybe you can expand on this more, is I ignorantly thought if you were put in a management position that you had to take different skill courses or gather these specific skills, because what are they looking for in resumes today? One of the most important soft skills is empathetic leadership. It's huge. So like people putting resumes out there, that's a key word that they want to hear. I had an interview with a newsroom in Seattle about a year ago. And that was one of the things they asked me is, can you talk to me about empathetic leadership? And I was like, I'm prepared. I prepared because I did my homework, and we happened to have someone come in the studio that day that was actually talking about these things. So I got great value from that interview. I want to share a little bit about what it's like for an employee, and people will be able to relate to this if they're listening, when that empathetic leadership doesn't exist. It takes a toll on the person, on the employee. And the reason it takes a toll is because we're humans. We go in there with a life. We sit down at our desks. We do our work. We're there to deliver and to share our knowledge and our experiences within the workplace. When our leaders lack that empathetic leadership, that compassion, that understanding, that willingness to pause and say, "Are you okay today? Sit down with me. Talk to me. What's going on?" When you connect with people on that emotional level, it's a game changer because you're talking to them as a person. But I was in a space where it was almost like everyone was a machine. And the level of leadership, there were levels of the machine. And I was a cog in the machine. And it took me a little while to see it. And when I saw it, I got to be honest, I was a little devastated because I was out there doing my best and giving my best. And when it came to different conversations, I'll say, that compassion, that empathy, that recognition was lacking. And what it does is it eats away at your soul. And you no longer want to give 150%. It falls to 130, it falls to 100, it falls to 80. And more pressure is piled on and more cogs are added to the machine. And that's all it is you're going in a revolving door and you're coming out and your human side is missing. And I don't want to miss this in this podcast, and I know we'll touch it at the end, because I want to talk about how it affects people when they leave the workspace. When that kind of empathy in the workspace, we spend most of our time there. You're listening to Conversations in Bed with Joleene DeRosier
And Ken Case.
If you'd like to sponsor our podcast with a specialty coffee, t-shirts, or your business or product, drop us an email. The email is in show notes.
Yep, we'll drink the coffee, share its origin, and insert your product or business right here in the middle of our podcast.
Thank you so much for being a part of our community. Now back to the goods. How does it translate at home? So in other words, and you can speak to this because you've seen me come back and walk through the door and you're here waiting and I'm just, it affects me.
Yep. So I guess there's a couple different ways, a couple different questions in there. One of them would be how does not having that compassionate leadership at work affect you at home, right? So what you just said, right? When you walk into the door at home, you're still dragging what occurred, right? And everybody says, leave it at work, leave it at the door. We can't, right? It's with you and you bring it home. And so that really affects family life. And then that affects you being able to come in and then be compassionate to your family, whether it's the kids or whether it's your spouse or whether it's something. You're just not in a space where you can go out and be that compassionate person because you're so dragged down. And so between us, I think, when that was occurring and I would see you come in, I would kind of kick into a little higher gear and I would turn into the compassionate leader, right? And I would kind of turn on my compassion for you, knowing, what you were going through and what you had gone through. And just hearing you talk and so many stories so many of the same story has been told over time.
I know.
that really affects coming home to your home space, bringing that with you. So it really does affect that whole thing. And like you alluded to earlier, by having that compassionate leadership and then sending that person home in a good space, boy, how much better is that for the family unit, right? And for the spouses and for the kids and for friends and family, everybody else. You want to do that much more. You don't have a problem going back to work the next day and putting in that extra effort because, hey, they let me go an hour early to go to my kid's soccer game, and they even though it was short notice and it put a little bit of a burden on some of the extra workers, but they took the time to understand that that's really important to me to go see my kid. And it's really important to my child for me to be there. So all that kind of stuff really plays out. And exponentially, you get a return on that stuff exponentially. So.
You offered something that I want to share because I thought it was really good when you did. You would say to me, if you come through the door and you're only functioning at 20 or 30%, let me know. So I know where you're at and what I can offer and give. And the reason that I thought this was a great topic overall is the parallels between this compassionate leadership you're talking about is leading as one does in a healthy masculine state. And whether you're a man or a woman in a leadership role, I feel like it always comes full circle and it plays out at work and then you bring it home, because how many times do we see people they dread going into work and they loathe the people they have to work with, and there's elements missing, and it blows my mind in different scenarios I've been in on how it's blatantly missed and it's not addressed. Even when you come forward to management and say, this is happening, this is what I'm dealing with, this is what it looks like out there, because you're out there in the trenches, and nothing changes. That's devastating. It was devastating to me in one particular instance. Devastating to me because I loved where I was. I loved what I was doing. I loved the people that I was with. But again, the only way that I can say it is I was a cog in a wheel. Life is too short for that. So I want to go back to this, knowing that in different workspaces, and you can tell me more because you're in a management role, it's not a requirement, right, to educate people in management roles when they're at work. Is that accurate?
I guess that's accurate. It's not a requirement, but boy, it behooves the company to train their people to do that. And you know, you look at globally, we're all guilty of it. Everybody's guilty of it. And there's really an awakening coming about training and leadership and you know, being with a company that really takes an interest in that. It really shows a great dynamic, and it shows interest in the employees, and there is action that gets taken. So is it a requirement? No, it's not a requirement, but it's great for those companies that can. And there are companies out there that have done a phenomenal job, you know, and others that are still trying to catch up. But there's a lot of lessons to be learned. There's so many resources out there now. If you look at YouTube, if you look at, I mean, any of that stuff, there are so many, like I said, you know, great mentors out there that you can learn from.
Simon Sinek.
Yeah,
we both follow him.
Yeah. Simon's great. Jeffrey Weiner. I mean, you can just go on and on and on. And again, being an Air Force brat, I kind of, you know, I really take a vested interest in, you know, looking at the military and being a pilot. You know, looking at the Thunderbirds, and looking at the Blue Angels, and how that team comes together, and the leadership that those teams have, and how they make the whole system work. You know. It's just great examples. So there's all kinds of examples out there. And if you're serious about leadership, and you're serious about being a manager or being in leadership, and you know, just to talk about those two things real quick, you know, got this from the Blue Angels, actually from one of the bosses, is you know, we manage things and we lead people. Right. So that's kind of, you need to look at the different aspects of
God.
Yeah. So yeah, take these nuggets and expand on them and think about them.
You manage things and you lead people.
Yeah. So yeah. So there's so many good things out there, but again, if you're serious about being a good leader and being a good manager and moving your way up, you know, take the initiative to get some training yourself, to read books, to just look at different things, look at different management styles, and really get into it. Because the days of, you know, do as I say because I said, you know, because I said, those days are gone.
Well, they're supposed to be gone.
Well, you know, and for good reason. Now, there comes a time when there is a time for that to play a role. Like, for instance, be in my line of work, right? Or if you're a firefighter, if you're a paramedic, if you're a police officer, if you're in some sort of critical situation at that time, yeah, that supervisor, that lieutenant, that sergeant, whatever, has to take control, and you do it because you're told. And then you talk about it after. But one of the examples that was given to me one time in the fire service training was, you know, don't think you're going to sit around the dinner table and tell everybody what they're going to have to eat. Right, you know, as the leader, that's something that you all talk about, and that's something that everybody buys into. but there is a time and place for that to take place, but they're few and far between.
So it's I'm sorry, I got to go back to this nugget you just like dropped on me. So it was, say it again to me.
What we lead people and we manage things.
We lead people and we manage things. How do we get, so a lot of people are experiencing overwhelm at work because it's just all task oriented. It's all about the bottom line. It's all about meeting, and I understand meeting budgets. I'm certainly not ignorant to that at all. But man, that is such a, I feel like bursting through the doors of so many businesses going, oh my God, you guys, you're going to die when you hear what I just heard. It's the Blue Angels. And they said this really cool thing. How do you get managers to make that shift? Do they already have to be empathetic to a degree somewhere?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Because those that aren't, they just get into the role of again, just do it because I said so. And that doesn't last, that type of, would you rather be feared or would you rather be respected as a leader?
Stop it, Ken!
You have to look at those things. There are some that like to be feared, and again, those don't last very long,
Well, then what happens is people leave and people are replaceable. Not in every place, but that is a wheel that people get caught up in. And then your self-esteem takes a hit, and then you think that you're not worthy or you're not seen or you're not heard. And that's it's a whole big thing. It always goes back. It always goes back to that. So what should someone do if they find themselves in a space where they don't feel appreciated, heard, seen, where there isn't that level of compassionate leadership, where the work is just being thrown at them and they're just a cog?
That's really difficult. I mean, what should a person do? If the culture is not going to change, then you're not going to change the culture, right?
Bam! That's three! That's three, Case! What has happened?
That's the trifecta right there.
Oh my
right?
God!
Right, yeah. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah, so that's a really difficult situation because you can't exist in that type of environment for too long. It's just going to drain your mental health, and of course, your mental health affects your physical health. And okay, 4.
Now he scored himself. Our co-producer's back there laughing at him.
So you really need to make a change. If the company's serious about it and it's brought to management's attention, you really need to, exactly what you just said, really appreciate your employees. And it's the littlest things. They're not looking for a lot.
No.
They're just looking for a thank you or a good morning when you come through the door.
How are you?
Or
hey, great XYZ.
Yep. Yeah.
How is ABC? How's Ken? How is Ken after he had new lenses put in his eyes? How did Ken's flight go?
Yeah, that's really what you want to do.
How's Teddy? How, they ask about,
Yeah. Yep. Ask about the family. Ask how people are doing.
And they're genuine about it.
Yeah. Because like what you just said is, people are going to, we've all seen, if you're on any bit of social media, we've all seen, the little quip of people don't leave good jobs.
I've said
people
that.
Don't leave bad jobs. They leave bad managers.
Toxic jobs. I've said it 1,000 times.
Talking to that. So there's so much truth in that. There's so much truth in that. Understandably so, because there are other options out there for people.
And let me just interject, because I know people hearing you say just that are like yelling, saying it's not that easy, Ken Case. No one said it was.
Right.
No one said it was easy, but there's always options, and we can always make choices even if it's an action a day.
Yep.
Sorry, I had to interrupt you there.
No, that's fine. And we'll probably get into something a little bit of that with manifesting here.
Manifesting. We're going to talk about that next episode, aren't we?
I think so.
Yeah.
Is that next episode? Yeah, I think so.
Let me look at my notes here.
All right.
From this here episode that I produced. Yes, what's next? Manifesting. Is it real? Does it work? And we're going to share stories of manifestation because we both believe it does. It's not a woo-woo. Pull it out of your... It's about energy. And I'm actually looking forward to talking about this because everything is energy. We'll dig into that. You have the power to manipulate the energy around you if it serves the greater good. And I have to tag with that because the life your life, you created it. Everything you put in front of you, you created. And I want to share how I manifested you. And I think, do you know what I mean? And I think you would say the same thing about me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 And just real quick, one last thing to kind of wrap up the whole empathy and compassion. It's so important. It can be just the smallest, littlest thing. You talk about this in some of the things that some videos and such is that just the smallest hello or to a stranger. I mean, that's empathy. Yeah, that's showing somebody, you see somebody who's down, just a quick hello or a quick smile or whatever. You never know the power that has, and it really does. And then we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to everybody else out there to do that. And it's such a powerful, powerful tool and so easy to use.
God, just for a second, just change everything.
Yeah.
Shift it. On that, I was in the store the other day, and the woman who was waiting on me, I was buying these T-shirts, as a matter of fact.
With the writing or without?
Which we attempted to do ourselves. She was not having it. She didn't want to be there. And I just kept, smiling, thanking her, really. And I'll tell you, her mood shifted. And our interaction was 2.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it shifted her. But by the time she was checking me out, she was smiling. And that gave her that little bit of extra. So when the next person came, hopefully they would give extra. That's how we literally start changing people, reminding them that they're worthy. Mm-hmm. Gosh, it's so important that no matter who we are, everybody is so worthy, even when we're really mad at them.
Yeah.
They're worthy.
Yep.
All right, Ken.
All right.
You did so good.
That was a quick one.
Woo!
I like it.
That's what I said.
I like it.
We'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye, friends.